Hello everyone, this is Steph with Stampin' and Scrappin' with Steph, and today I'm going to share with you how to make a fun pocket style envelope using the Painted Christmas Suite from the Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog starting on page 16. This is one of my favorite suites. I really like the designer series paper and the Christmas to Remember stamp set. So if you were to purchase this as a suite, you would get 2 stamp sets, 2 die sets, holly, gold holly leaves, the cherry gold and cherry cobbler and gold metallic ribbon, and then the designer series paper. If you liked when we offered painted seasons, and I think there was a painted autumn set, you'll really like this one because it's a very similar look, and it's featured on the inside cover of the holiday catalog as well as on the front cover, so there's a lot of ideas in using this set. So I just want to quickly show you some of the contents before we get started. So the Christmas season stamp set is all the pine needles, pine cones, the holly leaves and berries, and then it coordinates with the seasonal label dies if you were to get that as a bundle. And the dies have the outline of some of the images inside the stamp set, so you'd be able to cut them out, and the different label styles. And then the Christmas to Remember is the one with all the greetings, and this one coordinates with, what is it called, Christmas pine cone dies. So you get these 2 really big dies that one layers on top of the other to give you like a pine tree, pine needle effect. And then you'll get the coordinating little pine cones with their layering. And what's really neat is when you layer this and cut out the pine cones, they actually fit in certain spots of that particular die layer. So I'll show you that in a moment to know what I mean. All right. So this is one of those sets where I've had for a little while, I've played with it a little bit, but really haven't had a chance to dive deep into using it more. And I thought it would be really fun to create a little custom envelope. So I played around with different dimensions and things like that before I finally was happy with the size that I came up with. So I had a template, and this is what I work off of here. It's super simple to make once, like I said, once I figured all about the dimensions. So what I did was I took a piece of paper that was 9.5 by 7.25, and then I scored it on the 9.5 inch side at 4.5 and then at 9. So and then you turn it and you're gonna score it at a 1/2 inch and then a 6.25. And I'll show you how to make that. It's super cute, and it will fit one of our cards just perfectly when it's all wrapped up. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, you could slide a card in with no problem. And that this is a retired set that I used here. Okay. So what you're going to need is either a piece of cardstock or a piece of designer series paper. And for this particular pocket one, I'm going to use this paper pattern. For my original, I used that one. And like I said, there's several to choose from. They are double-sided, so if one side is way too busy, flip it over, it's a little more subtle. So you could use your Simply Scored scoring tool or your trimmer, and I'm just going to use the trimmer. So I'm going to start with my first score at 4.5, and I'm making sure that my 9.5 inch side is to the top, and then I'm going to score at 9. Okay, turn it so that your 7.25 is at the top, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to move down to 6.25. And another thing you can do is, if it's easier to move to the right of your Stampin' Up! Trimmer, is score on the 1/2 inch here, and then flip it around and move it over to 6 1/4. Sometimes it's harder to line up when all the paper is hanging off to the right, but whatever works for you. So now I'm going to fold on my score lines. This paper pack has a lot of really fun Christmas colors in it. You've got, let's see, soft succulent, those are new in colors, the evening evergreen, pear pizzazz, garden green, real red, cherry cobbler. So lots of holiday colors you can coordinate. I know there's crumb cake also. All right. So now we are going to trim. All right, so look at my scissors. So there's a few things you really don't need. So when we fold this over, this is going to be the flap that seals this side together. But because this is my seam, I don't want to see it from the front. I'd rather see like the folded edge. So that will affect what areas we cut out at the top and the bottom. All right, so with your 1/2 inch seam on the right hand side, this is the paper side that I'm not displaying. This will be the inside of the envelope. You want to trim this little bit here in the corner and this whole bottom section here. Same thing with the top. We're just going to repeat that up at the top here. Take out this top section. And then you could, cut it all at once. I'm just showing you a little bit more step by step. All right. So now I just want to clean up my edges a little bit. So I'm going to do a little trim to create like a miter cut. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my top flap. And same thing with the bottom flap. Okay. And that's all the cutting that you need. The assembly is going to be rather quick once you do that. All right. So like I said, this is going to be the back side so that I have a fold. And then this is your top flap and this is your bottom flap. So you'll see that it pops up the inside of the pocket just a smidge. And I feel that that's okay. So when you put a card that has a little bit of bulk to it, there's some room for the card to slide in nicely. All right, so what I'm going to do is flip it over. I want to add adhesive here. And I'm just going to use some tear and tape. You could use your Stampin' Seal Plus. That works nicely. And I want to make sure I get close to the score line there. Flip it over. I'm going to add adhesive to my bottom layer. But I'm going to leave the top one open. If you're more comfortable with decorating your envelopes before you adhere it, you could certainly do so. At this point, just know that this would be your front, this is your back. So I'll just remove, fold this down, and then this is just going to line up right here on that edge. Okay, and then I'm going to take this one and just fold it up. Okay, so now there is your little pocket. Super simple. And then, like I said, this was the card that I made using the Christmas pine cones die, and you can see the layers of light and dark. And I also used a piece of designer series behind it. I thought it was fun to create that background. And then the little pine cones actually fit on certain spots of the actual layered die. So if you were to give this to somebody, you could slide that right in, and you can see it puffs up a little bit, but it's nice because it doesn't like restrict the cards from going in. Sometimes you create something, it's a little too tight, it doesn't fit right. All right, and I will show you how I made that card in a separate video. So stay tuned for that. So there's one thing that I want to do when I created this little card. You can see this, pocket. There's a little notch right here, and I fed the ribbon through, and I'll show you how I did that. So in the seasonal labels die set, you get these two little pieces right here that will cut out that little slit. You can certainly do this before assembling your pocket. I just found it easier to do after. So I'm going to take my Stampin' Cut and embossing machine. I'm going to turn it over. And want to make sure that I have it centered the best that I can. And then I'm going to take a Post-it note to try to hold it in place as I feed through, just because it's such a small one, and if you have a magnetic platform, all the better. And then you just pop it through. There's no need to go all the way because you just want to catch that edge. Oop. Post-it, you get that little notch there. Super simple. All right, so let's turn this over, and we'll start decorating. Oops, I just realized I'm a little crooked here. Sorry about that. Okay. So the way I decorated the front of this is I wanted to keep it simple, but just add enough of embellishment. So I decided to just cut out a couple leaves, and this is using soft succulent. And then I did 2 sets in the, oh geez, I keep forgetting. Oh, excuse me, evening evergreen. So there's 4 leaves, and then the little berries in real red. And then using the labels that come with the seasonal dies, I did 1 in real red and 1 in the basic white. I also used the cherry cobbler in gold ribbon. So you just want to measure enough to kind of wrap around your envelope and give you enough that you can tie a bow with it. Depending on how much you like to use, I would say, let's say 16, this is about 16, 24 inches, give or take. Okay, so set this aside. We're gonna stamp, and using the Christmas to Remember stamp set, I'm using Have a Holly Jolly Christmas. I'm going to stamp this with the Memento black ink. It would be pretty in a color too, but I decided just to keep it simple with the black. All right. And I'm going to adhere this to my real red. If you hear any background noise, I have a cat running around who has a bell collar on, and every now and then she meows. And then I have a pellet stove running, so if that creates any type of humming, I apologize for that. But I share my space in my basement, All right, so I'm gonna put a couple dimensionals on the back, and I'm going to keep the dimensionals closer to my edge here, because when I wrap the ribbon around, I wanna make sure there's space for the ribbon to go through. Let's stick this here. All right, and the way that I added the leaves is just by using some glue dots. So this particular one goes under here. I like to just add enough so that it holds it down, but not enough that they stop moving. I like just having them free floating, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'll get my berries going. It just kind of makes the assembly go a little bit quicker. Oops, I skipped one. All right, so let's stick this one here. One here. So I think I'm just gonna put those on. All right, so we got our berries. So now let's wrap around our ribbon. So I'm going to go under the labels. Wrap it around. So I'm going to go up through the top. And obviously you would put your card in or whatever you're going to fill this with before you tie your bow. Okay. I'm not the best bow tire, but I think they come out decent. I think when you're sitting here by yourself and no one's around, like you tie the best bows. The minute you hit record or someone else comes in the room, it's like, I don't know, anxiety, and then the bows don't come out right. But this ribbon is a nice ribbon to tie with. It stays snug. So when you pull it tight, it kind of stays in that position. All right, so this one's a little bit shorter than my original one, but I think it's fine. It will work. And then the last thing that I did is I took my Wink Stellar and just added some glitter all over the leaves and the berries, just to give it a little bit of shimmer. And it's tough because unfortunately it doesn't really show up too much when I'm recording. I think just because the lighting here is just terrible, but you get the gist. I don't know if how much you can see the shimmer. Oh, there we go. All right, so here's my original and here's the one we just made. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. Happy stamping.